שיוויתי השם ונגדי תמיד, 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 ונגדי תמיד. שיוויתי השם ונגדי תמיד.
Welcome to Spirit of the Torah, Chodesh Tov, happy new moon of the month of Kislev, and our oldest mystical text, Sefer Yetzirah, ancient mysterious work, tells us that every month of our calendar has a certain quality or activity or human faculty that we have to pay attention to this month. This is the thing which we can heal, particularly in this particular month. And this month, Kislev, that we're just beginning, Sefer Yetzirah tells us to pay attention to our relationship with sleep. And indeed, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, this is very helpful and apt because we are in the peak time for hibernation. So we can really try and maximize sleep in a healthy way and enjoy sleep and hopefully fix and reset our relationship with it in a positive way. And as we go into the month, as is very often the case, we read about the famous dream of Jacob, Yaakov, our ancestor, and the ladder with the angels going up and down and the blessing that God gives him and so on. Later on in the month, we're also going to read about more dreams of Yaakov's son Joseph, also dreams of Pharaoh, which play a very important role in the plot of Joseph and his brothers and so on. For now, sticking with Yaakov, with Jacob, and his amazing dream of the ladder, it's not just a famous dream, it's an absolute centerpiece of Jewish identity and spiritual practice. In fact, I would say it has entered the canon of human spirituality to be a centerpiece of the human experience, this incredible dream of Yaakov. So I'm going to read the first few verses in Hebrew and English, and then delve into some amazing Hasidic interpretations, which show what are some of the very practical lessons that we can learn from this very evocative episode for our own lives. I think one of the reasons I love this episode so much, and obviously I'm not alone in this, the reason so many of us resonate with it so much, is because it just seems so true to the human experience on so many different levels. So some of these interpretations I'm going to share will really get that point over. So let's get to it. Vayeitzei Yaakov mi Beersheva, vayelech Harana. So Yaakov is running away from Beersheva and he's going towards Haran. And why is he running away from Beersheva? Because he's running away from his brother, Esav, his twin, in fact, who is trying to kill him. If you want to know why, check out last week's Parsha, Toldot. Right now, Jacob is here in this place, in the middle of nowhere, in the wilderness, as far as he knows. And the Midrash, our ancient commentary of the rabbis, adds that he's also completely destitute because he's been robbed of all of his possessions by Eliphaz, the son of Esav. What happens next? Vayifga b'makom. He happens upon, already bumps into a place or the place. And makom is also, as well as meaning the place here, is also a name of the Infinite One, Hamakom. So he bumps into this very significant place. He doesn't yet realize how significant it is in the Torah itself. Vayalen sham, and he spends the night there. Kiva hashemesh, because the sun has gone down. Vayikach me'avnei hamakom, yasem rashotav. He takes of the stones of the place, and he sets them around his head or under his head, it's not clear. Vayishkav b'makom ahu, and he lay down in that place. Vayachalom yehinei sulam musav arza, and he dreamt, behold, there was a ladder with its bottom standing on the ground, urosho magia hashemayma, and the top of the ladder reaching the infinite heavens. Yehinei malachei Elohim olim yordimbo, and behold, angels of God going up and going down it. V'hinei Hashem nitzav alav, and behold, Hashem, the Infinite One, was standing over him. And Hashem goes on to give him a blessing, to give him the land, and so on. I want to just spend a moment on the word Hashemayma, that the Rosho of the ladder, the head of the ladder, the top of the ladder, Magia Hashemayma, it reaches the infinite heavens. The reason I translate infinite heavens is because our word Shamayim for heavens can be understood as taking the word Sham, which means there or destination, the place we're going to, Sham, and making it into the plural form. So our word for heaven can actually be understood as infinite possible destinations. Every possible which place you might ever get to, that is Shemayim. And that is where the head of this ladder reaches, according to the Torah. So now let's get into these Hasidic interpretations I promised you. One now from the Toldot Yaakov Yosef, a very close student of the Baal Shem Tov. He tells us that the ladder teaches us when we unify ourselves with the lowest level of existence, then our consciousness can expand infinitely. Meaning the head of our ladder, our head, and the consciousness that our head houses will reach the infinite heavens. So what does it mean to unify ourselves with the lowest level of existence? He's referring to how the bottom of the ladder is standing on the ground, the artsiyut, the physicality, the materiality, the earthiness of existence. He's saying when we unify ourselves with that stuff that usually we might think is too lowly or even maybe too shameful to be considered good or religious or holy or whatever it is. He says when we unify ourselves with that, that is the base of our consciousness being able to expand infinitely. It's a very refreshing take on religiosity. The Baal Shem Tov, his teacher, was one of the key people to take this idea and bring it to the masses of our people. That the lowest stuff, the stuff we might usually discard or again be ashamed of in some way, that is actually where the gold is. And that is actually the basis for expanding our consciousness and therefore our spiritual existence. And in a related teaching, the same teacher, and all of these teachings as always are in the show notes or linked to, he says, when we engage with worldly and material matters, let our consciousness be connected to the infinite heavens. So you might be sweeping the floor, you might be milking your goat, you might be talking to someone, you might be buying something, selling something, doing whatever you do to go to work, whatever it is you're doing. Let our consciousness be connected to that infinite source, the mystery, that which is totally beyond. Even while we are firmly planted on the ground, just like the ladder, standing on the ground, implanted in the physicality of life. Now we could stop there. We could stop there and you would have a great distillation of one of the very central lessons of the Hasidic movement, of the Chassidut, from the Baal Shem Tov and his close students, and you would see how the ladder is absolutely central to that. But let's carry on, because there's more to share. Now from Reb Nosson or Rav Natan of Breslov, the great student scribe of Rabbi Nachman, and he wants to tell us, based on this dream of the ladder, that life is full of ups and downs, just like the angels who are going up and down. And not only is life full of ups and downs, but the only way to grow is to know that going down is part of going up. In other words, as the great Rebbe, the Moranim, the Shnobler Rebbe previously had said, there has to be a lack before the manifestation. In other words, before we grow, before anything new happens that's good, there has to be the lack of that thing. It has to be needed. It has to be wanted. And so we have to fail. We have to fall. We have to go to a place that is difficult. And Reb Nosson says in the path of the previous Hasidic Rebbe's, like the Moranim, he says, the key is to cultivate our awareness, because even when we fall and fail, as we all will, as we have to grow, if we know that that is a healthy, natural part of life, we can develop equanimity around it, and we can be aware, even as we are failing and things are hard, even as we are experiencing disconnection, loneliness, anger, shame, pain, whatever difficult emotions are arising for us, sadness, grief, whatever it is, we can know, even as we are experiencing those challenging emotions, we can know that nonetheless, we are still in the same universe, still connected to the infinite source of life, to the Ein Sof. That doesn't change. That's Dat, according to many of the early Hasidic masters. Dat, awareness, is our awareness, and it's an embodied awareness, an awareness that we really feel, we bring into our feelings. It's an awareness that everything is actually the infinite one, even the hard stuff. And when I know that, then when I'm experiencing any kind of challenge in life, it's still hard, but I don't have to completely lose it and get sucked, God forbid, into an endless spiral downwards of despair, which makes things worse and worse and worse. Instead, I can say, oh, this challenge is arising right now, and it's hard, but this is part of growth. And the down is necessary for the up which is coming. I don't know when it's coming. I may not know exactly how it's going to come, but I know that retaining that awareness, that Da, is absolutely essential to me having the optimal growth that I can from this experience. And one more teaching from Reb Nosson about the ladder. So it's based on the Baal HaTurim, great medieval commentator, who points out that the word sulam, ladder, Samach Vav Lamed Mem, sulam, has the same numerical value, 136, as a few other words in Hebrew. One of them is mammon, which is money. One of them is oni, which is affliction. But the one we're going to focus on right now is kol. Kol kuf vav lamed, meaning voice. And just like our voice, and just like actually money too, the ladder is grounded on the earth, meaning it starts from a very physical premise. Our voice needs a physical body to begin. But then, the Baal HaTurim says, it interacts with the elements of water, air, and fire. And if it did not do that, could not actually produce a sound. The kol, the voice, wouldn't actually manifest unless it was grounded in the physical, like the ladder, but interacting with all the other elements too. And ultimately, and this is the Baal HaTurim, but then Reb Nosson really develops it, ultimately our kol, our voice, can reach to the infinite heavens, as it does when we speak the truth with sincerity and when we pray with sincerity. So Reb Nosson suggests a practice, which actually we've talked about before here on this podcast, which I'm going to suggest again as the practice for this week as it relates to the ladder, which is especially when we are in darkness or disconnection, especially when we feel lost or confused or experiencing difficult emotions, especially then, to try and speak truth. Just by saying something that is true, we are connecting our voice, which again is all these different elements that we are made up of, with something of eternal and infinite value, something divine. We're told in the Talmud that truth, emet, is the seal of the Blessed Holy One, that God signs his letters, as it were, and seals them with the truth. That everything the Infinite One does reflects this eternal and infinite value. And we, in our very human, fallible lives, we are not going to speak the truth to the same degree, and we're not going to always get absolutely everything right, but we can try to. We can aspire to that. And when we do, when we succeed in speaking truth and being a vessel for something that is emet, something that is true, then we change who we are, and we make ourselves a vessel for that infinite, eternal quality. And we become a ladder, rooted in something very worldly and material in this world, which is not a world that is always full of truth, but with our consciousness connected to the infinite heavens. That's one way that we can practice using this idea of the ladder according to Reb Nosson. But also there's the general invitation we saw before from the Toldot Yaakov Yosef, the student of the Baal Shem Tov, just to unify the physical that we're engaged with all the time, the worldly, with our consciousness. That's also a very, very powerful practice. And as I said then, very, very central to the whole Hasidic path. In other words, just to know that we are connected to the infinite source of life, no matter what we're doing, no matter where we are. The Infinite One is always present. And again, that awareness that the Infinite One is in our experience and in whatever we're experiencing all the time, that is going to serve us well in everything we go through in our lives. So may it be so, may it be a week of cultivating that and of speaking truth as much as we can, of letting ourselves be a vessel for that kol, that voice and that ladder, which connect the physical to the infinite. Shabbat Shalom.